Hi, everybody. Welcome to my next pop-up. The sun is coming up. It's still morning. I usually don't paint on a recording with this or in a class with this, but I was showing it kind of fits the theme a little bit. So I'm going to keep it going just for fun. Today, we're talking about Dagger brushes, and I brought two of mine to show you. I brought the 3/8 of an inch, which is the larger of the two, and I brought my 1/4 inch. The 3/8 is very popular, probably the most commonly used with Dagger brushes. So if you have it, you're not alone. I'm not a huge Princeton brush fan, but I love their Dagger in their Neptune brand. So if you're somebody who's figuring out brands, and if you haven't gotten a Dagger brush yet and you want to try one, this is a good basic Dagger brush. Of course, the Dagger means it's flat completely on one side. It's got an angle on another, a short side. Mine's wet, so you can see the shape. They're fluffier when they haven't been moistened. And it has a very fine tip. So in some ways, it's 3 brushes in one. My favorite that I use the most, and bear with me, I got this stuck in something, sadly, but this is a silver black velvet, which most of you know is my favorite brand. This is a 1/4 inch, and I use this a lot when I want to use a Dagger. So starting, all of these have been played with the Dagger brush, and all of these have strokes that were created by the Dagger. This kind of reminds me of like underwater. You can do wonderful grass with a Dagger brush. You can do great leaves, but you can also do interesting little petal things. If you're painting along with me, grab your Dagger brush. And if you're just watching, that's great too. One of the secrets of the Dagger brush is you must have it saturated enough. There's no dry brushing, in my opinion, that creates the right effect. So I moved my palette so you could see it a little better, and I've got a puddle started. This is just sap green. You can use any color you want. And I'm gonna start, when you get your Dagger brush dipped in, make sure at the end you reform the shape. Don't leave scraggly hair sticking out, which happens quite easily. I'm going to start gently with the side, with the very tip, and I'm taking my pinky and dragging with me, and I'm just doing a delicate base of a leaf. And what I want to do is I want to build on that. So I'm now going back in. I don't like dry brushing, like I said, to take advantage of things. So I'm going to go thin, thick. I'm laying down all the way, as you can see. Thick, 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 pull up gently and easily, and thin. So that is, in my mind, the basic beauty of your beginner Dagger strokes. No twisting, just thin, lay down all the way, and pull up into a beautiful tip. I'm going to do that sideways for you too. I'm getting more. When in doubt, get a little bit more. As you're getting used to your Dagger, you'll find out when too much is too much, but I would err on more than less. So again, from this branch, I'm doing very thin and delicate. I'm pressing down all the way. I can pull it 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, as long as I want. And ultimately, I'm pulling back up again. Now you can do all kinds. And if you want, let's finish a couple more. And I'm just doing right now a basic leaf that's coming out. And you'll notice as you pull up, depending on how quickly you pull up, you won't always have the smooth one that you get when you have, say, a round brush. If I was doing this with a round brush, I wouldn't have this little concave area right here. And that makes it real interesting for leaves. Another thing you can do with leaves, and as this dries, I can go over it with a darker color. I can go above it and do some interesting just to give you an idea. I can do some interesting little angles to make it a little bit more 3D if I want. But another thing that's interesting with this brush that you can do is you can do smaller leaves. You can do stem, again, the same approach, thin, press down and up. And these little leaves are those little crunchy, cute leaves that are all over the place. And that little interesting line there, you're not going to get with another brush easily, or you're going to have to work hard at it. So those are those kind. Now that's pulling away. Now I want to show you what it looks like when you pull towards you with a dagger brush. So again, I'm going point. I'm doing the same technique, but backwards. Point and towards you. Now you can leave it a skinny leaf like this if you wish, or you can go back in and do another side to do a double thicker leaf. If I want, which I do, I can make thick leaves, press down, push around, and come back. Sometimes I connect them. I'm going to go over that again, and you can go over. It's not one or done. Sometimes I like to connect it, and sometimes I like to leave that little center unpainted area just to kind of give the impression of the spine in the middle of the leaf. If I want to pull out and make the tip more, I can do that. If I want to add, I'm going to add a little bit of burnt sienna. And don't think you can't go back in and do interesting things. I'm going to add a little burnt sienna with it and show you what that looks like. Just like with any watercolor, I can move the water. And by the way, the next class is tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And it is a water control class. I'm going to put the information on right when we're done. And
Cindra,
yes, ma'am.
question. The dagger brush has an angle where it's straight up on one side and angled on the other. So
Yes.
is it important then if that's to the left or to the right?
Now I love that question because that will give you different effects.
Okay.
So let me show you that one, Sharon. I love you asking. So I'm putting a little bit of darker ones over just to give a little extra texture. If you start out, let me try to get the original form back. If you start out with the straight edge, let's just say keep it straight right now. The letters, usually the description of the brush is like this. It's facing up and the long side is on the right. And then you have an angle. I would like to pull it out even more to accentuate that, but I can't do it quite as well. Let me do a pencil mark. This brush is straight up, and then it has a fairly sharp angle before it goes to the tip.
Mm-hmm.
And that angle can be used in different ways. Even now, if you want to try any of the same ones that I just showed you from this way, everything I've been painting so far is from this way. If you want to try them from the other way and see what happens, feel free, because what I hope, even like with the dot flowers that we did a couple of days ago, I hope it's encouraging you to play then afterwards. The other side, and let me just show you this too, Sharon. Let me keep going in my little order of stuff because it's going to answer some of that. Here's
Okay.
green again, okay? Another thing you can do is turn. So I'm going to start out the way I did before. The letters are up, the long is down, the tip is, and I'm doing it sideways. A lot of times we paint like this, right? This time, I love doing it sideways and dragging my whole hand with a dagger. But watch what happens, and you play around with me when you do a little twist with it. Now you can do, and I'm going to do a second one right next to it. When you do a little twist, you get an entirely different feel than just flat or high. So the little twist is bringing into it the side you're talking about, this side right here. And by the way, the best thing to do with Dagger is to try every stroke. Here it is, straight, skinny, straight across, barely touching the paper. I'm just doing a little wiggly line. That's straight down, skinny. This is flat, pressing down slightly. Here's flat, pressing down all the way. Here's flat, pressing down all the way with the other side, which will not be as wide as that. I'll tell you, some people, and you may be one of them, when you get into your Dagger brush, you may find that it's your favorite brush. I'm not there. I'll be honest with you. I feel like every brush has a different personality. And every brush brings different unique things to it. But I will say this is almost like 3 brushes in one. I want to show you another cool thing with twisting. And that is I switched to alizarin. You can do twist, press down. Can you see me twisting my hand? I'm trying to do it slow, even though it works better fast. So I'm twisting all the way down. And then I can go straight at the end. So I can make these cool little ribbony effects that are really unique for a paintbrush. Most of the times you would have to take your brush and you'd have to, do several strokes to get this kind of effect. Notice I'm going back in with the tip of my brush, so I can accentuate this. I can make this literally for ribbons. I can make this shorter or thinner for underwater looks. And I'll show you a little style in the last couple minutes that I have not perfected, but I think it's a blast. And I challenge you to see what you can do with it. I'm dipping into lemon yellow. I'm making a big puddle, making it very wet. Again, I'm saturating my brush. And then I'm making sure it's formed back to a good shape without wild things sticking out. Now, because it's saturated, I'm still damp at the tip, and I'm going to go into my alizarin crimson just on the tip. So just on the very tip. Resist the urge to saturate like you normally would, okay? And then I'm going to show you, if you start, I'm starting with a short end up on this one. If you start with a short end, delicate, press down and turn a little. And I'm going to do it the other way too. You can get a double colored, kind of reminds me of one brush or one stroke painting that was on TV years ago. But you can get the most interesting things on one brush. So I encourage you to play around with that as well. And you can use these brushes. My 15 minutes are up, so I'm going to show you a couple quick things for you to play around with. Here's another fun one, similar to this, that no other brush can do. I'm going into alizarin crimson only in the tip, okay? Only in the tip. The rest is just damp. And I'm going to just squiggle, squiggle, squiggle upside down. And I'm going to make these interesting, I got to try to do it from different angles. Now you can turn your paper, of course, but you're going to get these amazingly unique, interesting floral things just from going squiggle, squiggle, squiggle. Do you see what I'm doing? And you can play with how much or how little your water is, your pigment is, but I'll tell you it works best if you have very little pigment and only on the tip. So let me just show you real quick some of the ones that I've been doing. So here's the squiggle flower. Reminds me of kind of a carnation. I did a couple layers of that, and then I went in and accentuated the center with the tip. Everything that you're going to see, I have done nothing with any brush except a Dagger brush, okay? Here is me doing petals. You can take it like this. This is me using the shorten first. So you can do lots of interesting petals. Here's me doing it, kind of squiggling it out like I showed you, because I like that rough thorny grass. Same thing down here. I wanted it a little bit thorny. Here's kind of like this, but I was using some different shades and then going on top of each other. So that has the look too. Here's the double color. And here is what I started with. Just doing one skinny one and then different ones. This is almost like a feather or a big bush, but this is more like a palm branch or something like that. Here's my ribbon underwater. Here is grass. Don't forget just straight grass. I've got yellow on, but I'm just going to show you straight grass. And you can do beautiful thick on the bottom and then pull up. And do beautiful grass with your Dagger. And in closing, here is a painting I did totally with Dagger. I did some of these coming down, tip and press down. I used the flat side. I did some of them, the thinner grasses, I did coming up and more tapered, and I turned the Dagger sideways. I did the flowers the way I just showed you. And I even did tiny, tiny little green detail areas with nothing but Dagger, nothing but my Dagger brush with tiny little delicate strokes that you certainly can do at your most delicate with just this brush. So, and then I even did paint splatter with the Dagger. So I thought it was a very pretty, had a nice personality, and that is the Dagger lesson today. So I hope that helps you just kind of get familiar with it and get a feel so you can play around with the Dagger brush on your own.